It's Christmas morning! Let's see, it just says it's from Santa. I wonder what it is. Alright, I guess we're doing this today. Now, I actually did look at this comic the last time I did the 12 Days of Comixmas, but I was only able to share kind of crappy pictures I found online, but now I have the physical copy and a curse on my household. Or at least I will once I find issue 4 at a reasonable price. Then I will be fully awash in the power of Destrucity and will also be insane. So, just as some backstory, Ultimate Warrior was a pro wrestler and professional maniac who put out his own comic series. This was about in the, mid-90s. It lasted 5 very confusing issues. They had nothing to do with wrestling. I don't really know what they're about. I don't think anybody knows what they're about. If you know what this comic series is about, then congratulations, you are schizophrenic. But one of those comic issues was a Christmas special, of all things. It's not really a comic, it's just a collection of Ultimate Warrior Christmas images by several artists. And I believe that this one came out before issue 4 for a couple of reasons. Now, if you look at the info on the page, and yes, I know this is the worst graphic design known to man. That's just the Ultimate Warrior comic experience. If you feel like you're having a migraine, that's just the Destrucity entering your body. So if you squint really hard, here is a list of all the artists that were involved in this project. And so Jim Callahan is the artist who did issues 1 through 3. And this is part of the reason I think this came out immediately after 3. Partly is that all the information down here is actually just copied over from number 3. It's not numbered as like Warrior Christmas Special. And there's something I definitely want to point out. Now, looking back here at issue 3, there's this little line in all this. There's kind of some schizo-babble going on here, but published whenever Callahan gets off his ass and draws it. Now, this isn't a joke. That was Warrior being legitimately pissed off. So, my understanding is that Jim Callahan and Warrior had a bit of a falling out. I'm not sure I blame Jim Callahan, because dealing with the Ultimate Warrior in any capacity sounds like it would be genuinely very, very tiring. Physically, mentally, metaphysically. So Callahan's presence in this special tells me the falling out probably hadn't happened yet. But enough of that backstory. None of that knowledge is going to help you here. So, this one, I actually think this is a cool illustration. This one has great line weight. I think the colors look really nice. There are several illustrations in this book that I actually do enjoy, and I was pretty happy to finally see them up close and not just as little crispy pixely images as what I had seen before. There are some images that I was not happy to see close up, but we're gonna get to those later. You can also see this was stapled a little bit poorly, so there is another page poking through. We're gonna see some awkwardness later on. I think that this image of Warrior just going nuts on these poor children tracks with some stories that I've heard about Warrior. For God's sakes, you did not want to ask this man for an autograph. But occasionally they did manage to get this guy sedated and calm, as you can see here. This is, yeah, that is some awkward stapling. That's really the difficulty of just making any kind of comic spread where you got to deal with the fold, is that the fold is just going to not necessarily be on your side. I know that from zine making and doing some DIY printing. I love this Grinch piece. It's great. I'm knocking my stuffed animals over. I'm going to move these guys. You guys sit over there while we enjoy the art. This is great. This is what I'm here for. I wish the energy of the Warrior comic was more overly ridiculous and not the pseudo-philosophical word salad that it is. The comic should have leaned into the whole the Warrior is a raging nut bar angle and not made the Warrior... He shouldn't have taken himself so seriously. Yeah, so here's my face when I'm trying to actually read any of the writing in the Warrior comics. I bet this was Jim Callahan's face when Warrior was explaining that he wants to color code the text boxes in the comic to represent whether the text refers to the internal monologue of Warrior's introspective self or his instinctive self, as it applies to his spiritual battles waged in the terrain of Testament. And now you're making this face too! I love this absolute splatterfest. I'm so happy to have the physical comic, specifically because of this image, and I can look at it closely. I could only find really crispy quality images of it before, and now I can enjoy all the little details. I can just look at this page all damn day. I love it. I could look at this page never. I don't like this. Well, the flames of the North Pole and the piles of dead elves kind of give this Lobo's paramilitary Christmas vibe. The chained up shirtless Santa who is like somehow both muscular and then also really fat this is kind of an upsetting image. If we just saw that, it'd be like, okay, this is fine. There's an energy here I don't like. Unlike this image, which, again, I love this. I am very glad I could find a good... I can actually see it in person. We've got orc heads. We've got a sword. I actually really like all the little elves. They're actually kind of cute. And I like how they're stitching up the little cut he got after battle. This is a fun one. I like the composition here also. It draws your eye throughout the piece. So any fellow artists watching this hoping for some art advice, just remember, like, sword and orc heads, excellent. Half-naked chained up Santa, no, don't do that. This piece is so normal and wholesome that it actually loops back to being weird and out of place after everything we just saw. This is, I'm assuming, a bunch of guys trying to abscond with presents slated to go to the Warriors Orphans Home. I'm not sure there truly was a Warrior Orphans Home anywhere. I'm not very knowledgeable on wrestling. Maybe this was a plot element at some point in WWE history. Otherwise, it kind of looks like guys just trying to do their job while Warrior randomly flips their van over. Kind of like how he flipped over multiple couches 2 seconds into his interview with Arsenio Hall. This is actually another one of the pieces by Callahan, and I swear Warrior just looks completely different in all of his illustrations. He's looking a little dehydrated here, a little proportionally wonky. Alright, and so this is why the comic is so infamous. I'm just gonna be quiet for a second and let you take it all in. I think the most innocent interpretation here is that Warrior has roofied Santa specifically to steal his clothes. I don't know. I think the less we look at that, the better. Actually, here's a little sort of an ad for Warrior 4, so that does confirm that this predated Warrior 4, and I can't even imagine what I'd be more excited to read after all this than the next issue of that comic series. I think I've tortured you all long enough. Let's bring my helpers back. There we go. But I think that just about wraps up this episode, and it also wraps up my 12 Days of Comixmas. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this series. Be sure to check out the links in the description. I've got the link to my Tiltify page where you can make a donation to St. Jude's. And as a reminder, that $5 donation there is a specific option that will get you the 12 Days of Comixmas coloring book, and I have a special illustration featuring the Ultimate Warrior, and I promise you Santa has all his clothes on. And it actually has to do with wrestling. So you can spend your Christmas day doing some nice, relaxing coloring. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful Christmas.